Brexit will give the UK the opportunity to finally take back control of its fishing waters, but there are fears it could reignite the bitter Cod Wars with Iceland, yet documents unearthed by Express reveal how the UK hit back at Icelandic claims, insisting that they had no basis in international law. By UN convention from 1982, the UK's fishing limits stretch out for up to 200 miles from its shore or to the median point between its shore and its neighbours, e.g. the Irish Sea or the English Channel. However, the EU's Common Fisheries Policy (CFP), enacted in 1983, means that fleets from every member state have full access to each other's waters, apart from inside the 12-mile territorial waters. Meanwhile, Iceland has stayed out of the EU, but is in the European Economic Area (EEA), European Free Trade Association (EFTA), and the Schengen Agreement. Part of the reason for Iceland staying out of the EU is the CFP, which Nevertheless, before the CFP, the UK and Iceland were engaged in the Cod Wars that lasted for decades, and there are fears it might resume after Brexit. Tensions started in the 19th century when steam trawlers started venturing further away from Britain in search of fish. The fishing boom sparked by technological improvements had started affecting fish stocks, and it became harder and harder to catch fish, so boats sought new waters nearer Iceland. Iceland started resenting this and, in 1952, declared a 4-mile zone around its shores to stop excessive foreign fishing. The UK responded by banning the import of Icelandic caught fish. In 1958, after years of failed diplomacy, Iceland expanded its zone to 12 miles and banned foreign fleets from fishing in these waters at all. In defiance of the UK rejected this and, instead of sticking to the limits, sent Royal Navy frigates to accompany vessels into the exclusion zone. In 1961, the two countries finally came to an agreement that allowed Iceland to keep its 12-mile zone in return for conditional access to UK boats. However, by 1971, Iceland was planning to disregard the agreement and unilaterally extend its exclusive zone from 12 to 50 miles, citing concerns about overfishing. Documents unearthed at the National Archives by Express.co.uk reveal how British diplomats insisted that Iceland extending their jurisdiction had no basis in international law and threatened to take them to the International Court of Justice (ICJ). According to a telegram from one British diplomat, the Icelandic government said on July 14, 1971 that the 1961 agreement between the two governments would be terminated and that they intended to extend the fishing limits by September 1, 1972. The British government hit back, arguing that the 1961 agreement was not open to unilateral denunciation or termination, that the extension to 50 miles would be contrary to international law, and that they had the right to go to the ICJ in the event of a dispute. In a letter sent on July 17, the British added that they do not accept the right of any state to unilaterally assume jurisdiction over. The Icelandic government then claimed on August 31 that the object and purpose of the provision in the agreement for recourse to the ICJ had served its purpose in the intervening 10 years and was no longer valid. They added that they found it essential to extend their zone of exclusive fisheries jurisdiction to protect the Icelandic economy, which is overwhelmingly dependent on fisheries. The British responded on September 27 that such an extension would have no basis in international law. Informal talks in December 1971 apparently exposed that Icelandic officials thought it was a bad mistake. A British diplomat claimed they were worried about our deteriorating relations and worried about being taken to the ICJ, although nobody was worried about economic sanctions, which would simply produce a Dunkirk spirit. They added that the prospect of the extension going ahead was, for the British, too